WWE Summerslam has officially ended. I'm going to be going over everything that has happened on the card. Start off with Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan for the World Heavyweight Championship. Early on, it started off with Rhea Ripley dominating early on the match. Liv Morgan ends up getting the upper hand once she threw Rhea Ripley's shoulder into the ring post, which dislocated her shoulder. Later in the match, Rhea Ripley ends up putting her shoulder back into place by purposely slamming her shoulder into the announce table, which I thought was very cool. It was kind of stupid and ridiculous, but it was very cool when she did that. She did it later in the match too by doing it into the turnbuckle, but I kind of feel like that was kind of overdoing it because you already kind of overdone it with the announce table. But at least with the announce table, it was kind of cool in my opinion what she did with the announce table. But we get towards later in the match because this match overall was very mid in my opinion. The overall match wasn't all that, but it was really the ending that's really is what made this match. Towards the end, we get Liv Morgan gets a steel chair, tries to hit Rhea Ripley with it. Rhea Ripley ends up stopping her, hits her riptide. Instead of going for the pin, Rhea Ripley wants to inflict more pain on Liv Morgan. She grabs the steel chair, tries to use it, but Dominic Mysterio interferes, stopping Rhea Ripley from doing it. Now, it looks like Dominic was trying to help Rhea Ripley. He ends up telling her that you can't win the match like this. You can't win the match by hitting her with the chair, which is true. But then this distracts Rhea Ripley, which allows Liv Morgan to hit the Oblivion on Rhea Ripley. She ends up going for the pin, but ends up kicking out. Then Dominic Mysterio interferes. He ends up sliding the chair in again because the ref threw it out, but Dominic ends up throwing the chair back into the ring and ends up distracting the referee. And he ends up pointing at the chair to Liv Morgan, distracts the ref. Liv Morgan hits another Oblivion on the chair and picks up the victory. After the match, though, it wasn't really sure that who he turned on because he pointed at the chair, but you didn't know whether or not he was pointing it towards Rhea or pointing it towards Liv. After the match, he starts smiling. The camera panned towards him and he starts smiling. Then he helps up Liv Morgan and ends up kissing her in front of Rhea Ripley. Dominic Mysterio has officially turned on Rhea Ripley. I'm very shocked. I thought he was going to accidentally cost her the match, but he ends up doing it on purpose. He ends up choosing Liv, which I'm not mad at. This is great. Rhea Ripley was very upset. Looked like she was almost about to cry. This is great. This was everything it needed to be. The match wasn't that good, but the ending is what we all wanted to see, and it was great. It was perfectly executed. It was everything we have. Rhea Ripley is going to be Dom is going to be the most hated person on Raw. He's in the entire company, to be honest, because if he couldn't talk before, he definitely won't be able to talk now. But I can't wait to see what happens on Monday Night Raw. Next, we get a quick little segment with Damien Priest and the Judgment Day. Damien Priest is very upset, very angry. He's looking for Dominic Mysterio. Finn Balor trying to tell him to calm down, but he starts strangling Finn Balor. Once that happened, I knew how it was going to end. I knew exactly what was going to happen the moment he strangled Finn Balor. The moment he strangled Finn Balor, I knew exactly how his match was going to play out. Then next, we end up getting Braun Breaker versus Sami Zayn. This match was kind of disappointing. Gonna be honest, this match was very disappointing. This match was like 5 minutes long. It was very confusing because a good portion of the match, Braun Breaker had the advantage, was dominating, but they was also doing this thing where Sami kept on making like fake comebacks as well. In my opinion, this should have just been a 5-minute squash match, or they should have had an actual match where they both go back and forth, in my opinion. This was the low point of the show, in my opinion. Braun Breaker did end up picking the victory. He is now your new Intercontinental Champion. He ends up hitting 2 spears to take down Sami Zayn. Very interested to see what's next for Braun Breaker. See what's going to be his first feud. Mainly because I don't know what babyface he could face Sheamus. Well, no, never mind. Yeah, I don't know what. Yeah, I honestly don't know what babyface he could possibly face. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out. We kind of know where they're going with Sami Zayn, but very interested to see how that storyline plays up as well. But yeah, Braun Breaker is now your new Intercontinental Champion. Now we get LA Knight versus Logan Paul. This match overachieved. This match blew my expectations out the water. I did not expect this match to be as good as it was. Before they get to the ring, LA Knight ends up smashing the windows of Logan's prime truck before he makes his entrance. Then, before the match started, Logan Paul ends up attacking LA Knight during his entrance. They brawl outside the ring. LA Knight ends up getting the upper hand. He ends up doing a neck breaker on the announce table. Then they end up fighting in the ring. Knight ends up dominating early on in the match, but Logan ends up getting some momentum. Then it was a moment where LA Knight was on a ring apron. Logan Paul was in the ring. Logan Paul ends up going for a springboard clothesline on the ring apron. Then soon after, LA Knight's on the outside. He did a 6 springboard moonsault, bro. He ends up doing that thing where Sami does, where he like uses his feet to jump off the ring ropes. He did the same thing. He used his feet to jump off the ring ropes into a moonsault, which was very sick. He ends up putting LA Knight back into the ring. He ends up hitting his punch. LA Knight kicked out. The moment Logan Paul hit his punch, LA Knight kicked out. I knew LA Knight was going to win this match. Logan Paul punch is very protected. No one ever kicks out of that punch. So the fact that LA Knight was able to kick out of it just letting me know that he was going to win this match. He ends up kicking out. Logan Paul tries to go for a top rope maneuver. LA Knight ends up getting up, ends up doing the thing that he does when he jumps on top of the rope, ends up doing a suplex, hits the suplex. Logan Paul kicks out. Then we get to the outside. LA Knight ends up going to the outside, and he's by Logan Paul's entourage. Logan Paul's entourage are talking trash to him. LA Knight had enough of the entourage and ends up stomping him. He ends up tossing him over the barricade, ends up stopping him out. Then Logan Paul ends up, stopping him, ends up taking LA Knight out, and he's asking for the brass knuckles. He's constantly asking for the brass knuckles. MGK comes out, and he ends up giving Logan Paul some brass knucks. Then LA Knight ends up pulling Logan Paul towards the ring apron. Logan Paul ends up hitting him with the brass knucks, but he didn't hit him in his face. He hit him towards his forehead. Logan Paul tries to go for a springboard, but he tries to go for a springboard clothesline. LA Knight ends up reversing it, hits the BFT, and ends up picking up the victory. He is now your new United States champion. And I can't wait, because one of the reasons why SmackDown has been mid is because there's no mid-card division. Now we're going to get more of a sense of what a mid-card division looks like, with LA Knight being on TV consistently, being with the championship constantly. I'm excited. I'm not even the biggest LA Knight fan, but I'm just happy to see him have the title so we can see it on TV. Logan Paul's reign, the matches itself were good. The reign itself, I can't really say because he barely defended it. He was barely on TV, but the matches itself were good. But I hope LA Knight has a decent reign, and I'm excited to see what's next of that United States Championship. Now we get Nia Jax versus Bayley for the WWE Women's Championship. This match low-key cooked. This match exceeded my expectations. I did not expect this match to be that good. I didn't expect it to be that long either. I thought this was going to be shorter, but this match exceeded my expectations. This match was better than I expected. They was playing a story of Bayley overcoming the odds of Nia Jax being this dominant, big, brutal force, being the stronger opponent. Bayley trying to overcome that. We get to a moment where Nia Jax ends up hitting the Annihilator. She hits the Annihilator. Bayley ended up kicking out of the Annihilator, which I thought was shocking, because the moment Nia Jax hit the Annihilator, I thought she was winning, because the Annihilator is one of the most protected finishers in the WWE. Typically, when you get hit with that, you're out. So, you're typically out. She ends up getting hit with the Annihilator, and she ends up pushing Nia Jax off her, kicking out. Nia Jax ends up start dominating a good portion of this match. Nia Jax is frustrated because Bayley just kicked out of her finisher. She tries to go for another Annihilator, but Bayley ends up going underneath her and ends up hitting a powerbomb on Nia Jax, which is crazy. The fact that she was able to hold her ground and ends up, keeping her in the air for a bit and then slam her is very impressive for Bayley. Then she ends up going for an elbow drop, goes for the pin, Nia Jax kicks out. Then Tiffany Stratton theme music hit. All you heard was Tiffy time. She comes out. She ends up teasing a cash in, but Bayley ends up knocking her off the ring apron. Then Nia Jax ends up taking advantage of that, ends up hitting her with 2 power bombs, ends up hitting the Annihilator twice. She hit back-to-back Annihilators as well, and now Nia Jax is now your new WWE Women's Champion. This is a good match. I thought it was a really solid match. I enjoyed what they did here. I was right though. I was right about Tiffany Stratton teasing her cash in. She didn't cash in, but she did tease it, which I knew was going to happen. After the match, you see Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton celebrating, but during their celebration, Tiffany Stratton is constantly looking at Nia Jax championship. Constantly. We all know it's going to happen, but they're already throwing signs of her, going to cash in on Nia Jax. I can't wait to see how this plays out. Now we get one of the matches that we've all been waiting for a long time. Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. The match immediately starts off with them brawling. They immediately brawl. They even fall outside for a bit. Rollins doesn't count outside. He didn't count the 10 at all. He just let it happen. Drew starts dominating early on. Then a little bit later in the match, Drew tries to get a chair. He was trying to see if Seth Rollins would allow it. It looked like Seth Rollins was going to allow it. He ended up walking away, but he ends up turning back around, ends up taking the chair away from Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre has an issue with it. He starts yelling, ends up shoving Seth Rollins' face. Seth Rollins tries to hit Drew McIntyre, but he almost accidentally hits CM Punk. CM Punk tries to attack CM Punk, but CM Punk ends up rolling up Drew McIntyre, but Seth Rollins is distracted because he was throwing the chair out the ring, and he ends up missing his count. CM Punk gets distracted because he's upset with Seth Rollins, and he ends up taking advantage. Then he ends up going to the turnbuckle and ends up pulling out the bracelet he took from CM Punk, and starts wearing it. He tries to go for a Claymore, but CM Punk ends up reversing it, and he ends up reversing the Claymore, and CM Punk starts making his comeback. Punk is, making his comeback, and then Punk ends up putting Drew McIntyre, my mistake, ends up putting Drew McIntyre into a vice submission. As he has him in a vice submission, he ends up stopping it and, letting go of the submission because he sees Drew McIntyre wearing the bracelet. He sees him wearing the bracelet, and he ends up pulling it off. He ends up stopping the submission to take the bracelet off his hand because he really wants that bracelet back, and tries to put it on. But as he's trying to put it on, Drew McIntyre ends up hitting a Claymore, goes for the pin, but Punk ends up kicking out. Then, later in the match, Punk tries to go for a GTS. Because after Punk got hit with the Claymore, Seth Rollins ends up picking up the bracelet, which I didn't even see. I didn't even see Seth Rollins pick up the bracelet. Maybe the camera was panned somewhere else. Punk tries to go for the GTS. He tries to go for the GTS on Drew McIntyre, but he looks at Seth Rollins and sees that Seth Rollins has the bracelet on his wrist. He put Drew McIntyre down, and now he's arguing with Seth Rollins. They're going back and forth. They're yelling at each other. Seth Rollins keeps saying everything isn't about you. Punk looked like he was about to, let Seth Rollins have it, but he ends up picking Seth Rollins up and hit him with the GTS. He hit Seth Rollins with the GTS. Yeah, No. Before that happened, I'm skipping past some parts, but he ends up hitting Seth Rollins with the GTS later in the match. There was another moment in the match as well where Punk had Drew McIntyre. He actually hit Drew McIntyre with the GTS, goes for the pin, but Seth Rollins ends up missing his pin once again. That was the second time he ends up missing the pin. That's when they started arguing. If I'm not mistaken. They start arguing after Seth Rollins missed Punk's pin again. Then CM Punk ended up getting angry, hits the GTS on Seth Rollins. Then he tries to attack Drew McIntyre, but Drew McIntyre ends up hitting him with a low blow. Then hits the Claymore, goes for the pin, and Seth Rollins ends up counting the 3. Drew McIntyre picks up the victory. This was a great match. This was a really great match. After the match, Drew McIntyre ends up taking the bracelet back and start wearing it again. So CM Punk wasn't able to keep the bracelet. This was amazing. This was really great. This is only their first match as well, because they're going to have more matches, but Seth Rollins definitely did elevate this match, and we know Seth Rollins most likely will be in the next match, probably going to make it a triple threat, either at Bash or at Bad Blood. Can't wait to see how this plays out. Now we get Gunther versus Damien Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship. This match, you can arguably debate, was the best match on the card. This was really good. Very good, solid pacing of the match. Very hard-hitting, very stiff match. Two of the most stiff wrestlers in the WWE. This was a good, solid back and forth. Priest looked amazing. Gunther looked amazing. Priest, they ended up having a chop fest. They was doing some very hard hitting. It was at one point Gunther's chest was bleeding because Damien Priest's chops were so deadly. Gunther's chops was very deadly too, as always. They ended up having a good back and forth. But then we get towards the later in the match. Gunther is dominating Damien Priest. Gunther is having the upper hand. He's dominating the match. Then you get Finn Balor comes out. The moment Finn Balor comes out, I kind of already knew what was going to happen, but it still shocked me. Finn Balor comes out. Gunther looks at him. He's, asking why is Finn out here. He's like, what you going to do about it? He ends up kicking Finn Balor in the head. He kicks Finn Balor in the head. Finn Balor falls on the ground. Damien Priest saw that, and he starts charging up. He ends up charging up like Hulk Hogan. He ends up making a comeback. He's dominating Gunther. He ends up hitting the Razor's Edge, and then he ends up doing the South of Heaven choke slam. Goes for the pin. But he ends up rolling Gunther towards the ropes. Goes for the pin. Finn Balor puts Gunther's leg on the ropes, and it's a rope break. Damien Priest is confused, but then Damien Priest looks at the replay, looks at the Titantron, and sees that Finn Balor has officially turned on him. He sees that Finn Balor turned on him, and he's trying to attack Finn Balor. He tries to attack Finn Balor, but Gunther ends up catching him and ends up putting him in a headlock. And that's how Gunther becomes your new World Heavyweight Champion. This was a great match. This was really great. This was amazing, man. I'm very excited to see how this plays out, man. I'm very excited to see how this plays out. I'm very excited to see how Damien and Rhea are going to work as a duo. I'm very excited how the new Judgment Day is going to work with Liv Morgan in the picture. This is great, and I'm excited for Gunther's title reign. I'm excited for Gunther being the new World Heavyweight Champion. He did such a good job with the Intercontinental Championship, so I'm very excited to see what he does with the World Heavyweight Championship. Now we get to the main event. The main event, we already know we don't really need to discuss a lot of this main event, to be honest. Solo versus Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship. Bloodline rules. Solo did look decent. And when I say decent, I mean in terms of being dominant to a degree. Because it wasn't like he got demolished by Cody Rhodes. It was moments where he actually outsmarted Cody Rhodes at times. But we already know interference was going to happen. The Tonga brothers ends up interfering in the match. But Cody ended up getting some backup because, as I predicted, one of my predictions was that Kevin Owens and Randy Orton was going to come out. They end up taking out the Tongas, and then they ended up not returning for the rest of the match. But we get towards the end of the match. Okay. Cody Rhodes ends up Jacob Fatu did end up coming out interfering as well, but he ends up injuring himself after doing a dive on Cody Rhodes onto the announce table. Now, I don't know if he's selling an injury or he's actually injured. I'm very worried because the way he was selling it looked like he was legit injured. So we'll have to see what happens on SmackDown, but it looks like he was legit injured, but I'm hoping it's just a story. But after Jacob Fatu is taken out via injury, Cody Rhodes, Solo go back and forth. He ends up hitting a cutter, and they're both on the ground. Cody and Solo are both worn out. They're both on the ground. Then out of nowhere, you hear the theme song. You hear the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. You hear the theme song. You hear the music. He ends up walking down very slowly as Roman Reigns does. He got a crazy pop, man. It was special. It was so special. He walks down. He's walking slowly. Stops before he gets in the ring. He runs in the ring. Ends up charging up that Superman punch. Ends up Superman punch Solo. Then he ends up spearing Solo. Then he looks at Cody Rhodes, gives him the nod, and walks off. Cody Rhodes then take advantage, ends up hitting 3 crossroads, ends up picking up the victory, retaining his WWE Championship. This is great. This is great. Love this. I love everything about this. Him going after Solo, him staring Cody Rhodes down, because they end up having an intense stare down. After he ends up sparing Solo, they were just staring at each other for like a good 10 seconds. Then he gave him a nod, walk away. Even when Cody was fighting Solo after he speared him, he was staring at Roman the entire time. The entire time he was doing the crossroads, he kept staring at Roman. He never stopped staring at Cody. And then after the match, even after he won, he still is staring. They're both still staring at each other. Like, they did not stop staring at each other for like a good 2 minutes. Like, they just kept staring at each other. Like, this is great. I'm gonna be honest. This kind of sold me on Cody versus Roman Part 3. I know it's probably not going to happen, but just that stare down alone kind of sold me on the idea of the match. I'm very excited, man. I'm very hyped that Roman Reigns is back. SmackDown needs Roman Reigns, and I can't wait to see how this plays out, man. This SummerSlam was very special, very great, way better than last year's SummerSlam, because last year's SummerSlam was disappointing. With this year's SummerSlam was great. Everything delivered, everything that needed to happen has happened. Very shocked that we had 4 title changes as well. We got 4 people becoming champion, which is very weird. That typically does not happen under Triple H. So the fact that 4 people are brand new champions, it's very shocking. But you guys, let me know your opinions down below. Let me know how you feel about this year's SummerSlam. Leave your opinions. Let me know what you guys think of the show overall. I got majority of my predictions right. I went 6 for 7. The only match I got wrong was Nia versus Bayley. Not too bad. But yeah, you guys let me know your opinions down below. Let me know what your predictions were. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, that's it.